What's up everyone, ODC, it's me here, and today's video, I'm doing something a little bit different. It's kind of like a collaboration video as far as my Force Friday pickups. I will be breaking down each figure and just talking about them all at once, instead of doing separate reviews and then, I don't know, whatever. I think the only one that I will do a separate review for is the old Luke. Alright, first one we'll bring up, because I do want to do a comparison with this guy, is we'll talk about the Executioner. And now this was a Target exclusive. He was fairly easy to find. A whole bunch of my stores, I have about 6 or 7 Targets in my area, so I had no issue getting them, and he was out a couple days before. It's probably a mistake on Target's part, but that's what you get for not paying attention there, Target workers. So, I picked up actually a couple of these, and not too many. I only picked up 3, and one's actually for a friend, and he should be getting that soon. But, I mean, this guy's cool, don't get me wrong. It's nice to see some variety and some new rankings in the First Order. But, I don't know. The axe, and I'll just call it the axe, because that's what an Executioner wields. The axe that he has, it's okay, but the one issue that I do have is that it's entirely too thin, the handle portion, and it likes to flop around and not sit in his hand as well as you would like. He can two-hand it, there's no issue there. They really need to do something. If they're going to keep releasing these First Order Stormtroopers, they have got to fix this elbow range of motion. It is some of the worst garbage I've ever seen on, and I said that in my First Order Stormtrooper review, which is, here's your comparison right here with the original one. It is not very good range of motion with a trooper figure. I mean, you try to get him to two-hand this, and it looks really wonky and not natural, and I'm not digging. This is not tactical right here. Like, he should be able to get this all the way up and look down the sights the way he's supposed to. Look how stupid that looks from the side. I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea when toy companies, like, I don't know. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look tactical at all. And these guys are soldiers. I know, like, the running joke is that, oh, all stormtroopers of all kinds, and even, you know, the original trilogy troopers are terrible shot, blah, blah, blah. But that's, I don't know, to me that's kind of garbage. But I don't know. They should be able to look down the sights. If I can get a friggin' G.I. Joe to look down the sights, I should be able to get this. If Marauders at this point can get a figure to look down the sights, he should be able to as well. So that's just my little rant about that. So I'm not feeling these elbow joints at all, and I never have. With him, it's not as bad because he's wielding an axe, so there's that aspect of it. To give you a little comparison here, it's pretty much just a re-release, different paint apps, though, of this. He's obviously got black shoulder pads, with the shoulder pad having the First Order insignia on it on both sides, and obviously he has a black stripe going throughout the helmet on the his right-hand side. He does not come with a blaster pistol, which is kind of silly because there is a spot for him to hold a blaster pistol, so that's a bit odd, but maybe it's not necessary for him. He only is a melee character, which would make sense, but you would think that he would at least come equipped with some sort of backup device or weapon. I don't really see anything else besides his pockets on his belt being painted differently. One's just black plastic with, and this one's just got white on it. So the thermal detonator on his back also does tend to look a little bit different. Like there's different paint apps there. Yeah, there's definitely different paint apps there. As you can see, the white ring around this. But the back portions look the same besides the thermal detonator. There's a little bit of paint slop going on in his back leg. The boots seem to look a little bit thicker painted on this guy than this guy. Look to be a little bit thinner. But it's pretty much, when you take a look at it, it looks like just pretty much a repaint. So, just in a different way. But, anywho, taking a look at his, I'll just call it a axe. I don't know the technical term for it, because I don't even know if they've released it yet. I'll have to do my homework after the video, but I mean, it does look pretty cool. And this I guess you want to call it this piece right here that's connecting, this kind of energy piece right here. I don't believe maybe it's removable. It actually is removable. Wait, is it or is it not? Yeah, it is removable. So you can actually remove that if you want to have him not wielding this piece. It's just pretty much just cinched in there, so you can use your nails, or my lack thereof, nails, to kind of get it off. There you go, and there you go. Now you can have it with the energy portion of the axe not used. And this is actually on a hinge joint here. What if that's supposed to be like, yeah, maybe it is. Where this actually folds up, like so, and let me take this side off too. So this is actually pretty cool. I actually didn't even know about this until I started shooting the review. Alright, so this is pretty much with both hinges down and it's put away. So I guess if you wanted to have him hold it like so, you could. So that's pretty nice. I do like that. It's nice that we got a new accessory, some nice sculpting on the axe as well. But I would say more time and effort went into, I guess, the axe, since this is a new sculpted piece, than really the trooper. But, I mean, I guess if this is true to what the trooper looks like, then it doesn't matter. I guess it's kind of irrelevant, because as long as he is accurate, I guess it doesn't really matter if he's just a repaint, right? So, there you go with that. Don't know too much about it. I actually am kind of curious as to how much of this type of trooper we're going to see in the next film. You know, maybe there's a whole executioner scene where he's got someone's head on a chopping block, like old school sword and sandals days. But it's nice that we got a little bit of a hinge joint right here on all fronts. Pretty awesome. I like that. So you could even have it like this and have all the prongs opened. But that's it for the Executioner. It's pretty much the exact same articulation, so I'm not going to go through it with this. I mean, we pretty much know the articulation of this guy already, so I'm not going to go through it. It's the exact same. Nothing has really changed. If something changes, then I'll note it, but other than that, blah. Okay, and next we'll do Hera. So let me grab her. I'm sure everyone wants to see Hera. She looks pretty cool. I like her. She's simplistic. She doesn't really come with much besides her pistol, but she doesn't really need to, seeing as she's a pilot for the most part. I think she is true to form here. It's a nice realistic take on the animated character, and I really like it, to be honest with you. I do enjoy the Rebels series, and hopefully this last season will up the ante a little bit more. The sculpt on her looks pretty on point. I like the face sculpt. I think it looks really good. The eyes don't look googly, but her head looks nicely sculpted. I like the paint detail going throughout that. There's kind of like some gray detail going throughout her head. I like that. The I guess if you could call this the headpiece, the pilot headpiece with the goggles up. And you cannot rotate these down over her eyes, which I think kind of is a missed opportunity. They could have put a little hinge joint right there and had these come down like so, but I mean, I guess she doesn't wear them too much. She pretty much looks like this when she's piloting. Taking a look at Hera's articulation here, her head can swivel a little bit. It can't really do a full 360. I mean, I guess if you force it, you could, but I guess it's kind of unnecessary, to be honest with you. Her head can look up about that far with her headpiece getting kind of in the way. Her head can look down. Does pivot. Kind of pivot a little bit. Not too much. Arms go up about here. And then down, full 360 rotation. The elbow or the shoulder pad does not get in the way, so that's not a problem. You can get full range of motion there in the elbow. The swivel at the elbow as well. A bend at the elbow. A swivel at the wrist. We have a hinge joint, which goes up and down, which we're used to with the Black Series. And this side goes in and out. So that's nice to have. And then we have a swivel at the diaphragm joint, which we're used to. And then a bend and a crunch and a pivot side to side. She's got T-jointed hips, which go out into a split about that far. That's maxed out. So good range of motion there. Legs go forward nicely. And they go back. Upper thigh swivel. A double jointed knee. Good range of motion here. Foot goes forward nicely. Points the toe nice. And ankle pivot. So really good range of motion with her, I'd say. Especially for female character. Usually female characters are kind of hindered. There's stuff getting in the way. There's lack of a bend at the elbows usually with female characters. But she's solid. She's really good. As far as her holding her pistol, I don't know about this. Let's see how this is going to work. I don't know how I'm feeling this. I mean, she can hold it. And it doesn't, I guess it doesn't fall out. I guess you have to just kind of work with it. You want to get the trigger underneath that finger. And so the handle of the gun is resting on the back of her thumb, or on the front of her palm, I should say. Or the inside of her palm. Excuse me, I can't talk. But there she goes with that, and then let's check the other side. This side actually has the trigger finger, so you might have to work with this side a little bit more. It's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit odd the way they have this set up, but I guess that's the design of her pistol, so, or her blaster, sorry. Looks okay. Nice little design for her. Her pistol. Alright. And it does fit in her boot nicely, and it does not fall out. So you don't have to worry about that falling out. It's snug, tight. You don't have to worry about anything with her pistol. So she's simple, but I think they did a really good job on her. I'm pretty happy with overall how she turned out. Let me just give you a full look at her body and everything. I like the sculpted flight pads, knee pads right here. That looks really cool. So we're getting closer to completing our Rebel squad. We'll bring in Thrawn, Mr. I Fall Over. He was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive figure, one of them for the year, as well as Luke, Rey. I almost said Leia for a second there. Luke, two Lukes actually. We got the Luke with the speeder and the poncho and the hat and all the other accessories. We got him and Rey and Old Man Luke for San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, which is pretty cool. Wasn't too big a fan of the prices for the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, so I passed on them. I thought the only reasonable one was the Luke and Leia 2-pack, which I actually did pick up from Hasbro's Toy Shop. So, but that was really the only one I was really interested in. I knew he was coming out, and I was like, I'll just pay $20 for him when he comes out, and I'm fine with that. I don't need a whole bunch of accessories to try and sell me on a figure that's coming out in a month. So, he is a little bit loose, at least mine is, in the hips. At least this leg is. It's a little bit loose. It's not just there yet, but it's close. I think overall he looks pretty good. I'm not sure if he's reusing parts. I'm not looking that far into it. He might be using parts from Krennic, I'm not 100% sure. I've for the most part, the Black Series usually gives us a new sculpt. Or if they do reuse something, they usually retool it enough to where it doesn't really look like that. But the Black Series is usually pretty good about giving us new sculpts. He looks pretty cool, though. I like the face sculpt. I think they did a really good job on the face. His attire, all of his medals, ranking insignias look really good. Here's the back of them. I have noticed that some people were complaining about, oh my god, there's like dirt on my Thrawn, and there's like a little blemish right there. Not a big deal. It's a nitpick. You could probably get this off with some cleaner. There's a little bit here and here. I'm just noting it because other people online were like, oh my god, my figure's ruined, and oh no. Calm down, people. It's not that big of a deal, really. Seriously. I also noticed some people complaining about, limbs breaking off. Now that is something you should complain about. Getting a brand new figure and then the arm breaks at the elbow is not cool at all. So hopefully that doesn't happen here, but if it does, at least it's on camera for you guys to all see. The head can swivel, full 360 rotation. His head can look up nicely, good range of motion there. His head can look down. He does have a pivot in the head as well. Noticing a little bit of paint defect on his head, almost like it's not paint enough. I can just take a little Sharpie right now and fix that up. Why don't we go ahead and do that? A little bit of blue right there, and now it's gone. Look at that. Oh, can't even see it. Oh my god, quick fixes. Quick fixes are awesome. But there's the head articulation. The arms go up about that far. They go down. Full 360 rotation in the arm. A single bend at the elbow. Good range of motion in the elbow. Really nicely done. Swivel at the elbow as well. He's got a swivel at the wrist. He's got a hinge joint at the wrist that goes in and out. And so does this side, in and out. So no up and down. The diaphragm joint does crunch forward about this far. It does crunch back about that far, so forward, back. You can pivot side to side, and you can swivel also. So full 360 rotation on that. The legs can go out due to the slits on the side of his uniform here. So that good range of motion there. Legs go forward, and they go back. Upper thigh swivel. Got a double jointed knee. Got an ankle articulation, pointing the heel, and there's pointing the toe, and then we have an ankle pivot. And that's pretty much it. Just to note, which I just noticed, I don't know whether maybe it's my lighting or what, but this looks like a different shade of, it almost looks like a brownish color than the actual toe piece. I don't know if it's coming up on camera, but in hand, you can definitely tell the difference. Just something to really note. Some people were complaining about their eyebrows being messed up. I don't have any issue with that, so no issue there. Here is his blaster. There's like a gunmetal paint application on here, so that looks really good. So they definitely got the blaster pistol right. And let's put it in his holster first. See how well that seats in his holster, and it does not fall out. It is nice and snug in there, which is good, so thumbs up for that. And the blaster can fit in both hands, I believe. If you want to have him looking kind of unnatural and maybe just neutral with it, his finger not on the trigger, you can have it like that. But no trigger finger on this hand unless you separate that top finger with maybe an X-Acto knife. But this side does have a trigger finger, and it does fit into the pistol like so. So you can get him looking like this or whatever, however you want. Maybe a little bit of a Timothy Dalton here. Some Timothy Dalton look. But that's pretty much it for Thrawn. I think he's a solid looking figure. Next up, we'll talk about Commander Gree here. He does have some different tooling here, which is nice. I think it's really cool that the majority of the commanders kind of set themselves apart from each other, so you can kind of point them out. Captain Rex has his own look. Commander Gree here has his own look, similar to Commander Bly and Commander Neo and was it Barkara? And then we also have Commander Cody, which was also released. And he has pretty much his own look as well. So that's pretty cool. I definitely dig the fact that each commander has his own thing. The paint scheme on him looks pretty good. I'm not the biggest Commander Gree fan because I don't know. Even though he was in the movie, he's in it for not very long. There's a couple scenes with him in it, and then he gets pretty much decapitated by Yoda. People, I feel like, maybe seem to like him a little bit more due to his color scheme. He does have some different tooling on the back, and I'll just compare it to a regular clone trooper here. We'll do some comparisons. As you can see, he's got a thermal detonator. It looks like he's got two thermal detonators. One up on his chest piece, the back of his chest piece. He also has a antenna with a different pack on there. It looks like a communications pack. Not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me. He also has different tooling. It looks like this upper torso is completely different. It's a new sculpt, and you can see that in it's blatantly obvious, obviously. The belt, I think I'm pretty sure that's the same. Let me just take a look at him from the front. Yeah, that is the same belt. I'm guessing everything from the mid-torso down is the same, except for this piece of sculpting right here on his leg. That is obviously different right here, so that looks like it was newly sculpted or tooled for this thigh piece right there. But the feet look the same, the lower legs from the knee down look the same. The arms look the same. Shoulder pads look the same. Helmet even looks the same. I don't think there's any different tooling there as far as I can see. Obviously the paint applications are going to be different. That's kind of pointing out the obvious, but the upper torso piece is a new sculpt, so that's pretty cool. Now, comparing him with Commander Cody here, obviously you can see the big differences here. The head sculpts are completely different. The shoulder pad on his left side, on Cody's left side, is different. The torso piece right here is different. The mid-torso, which is the gray piece right here, and the belt and the lower crotch piece, the legs are pretty much the same. Obviously, this is different. It's not on Cody. But there are some reused parts here, which isn't the big deal, which is not a big deal at all. Cody has his jetpack on here, which is cool for him. So that's a different tooled aspect of that. But Gree looks pretty good. He's definitely accurate to how he looked, so I don't have any issues with that. Taking a look at Gree's accessories here, we have his DC-15 blaster rifle. So that's pretty cool. Looks good. Pretty much what we've seen with the previous blasters. It's the exact same. Nothing different there. A little bit of a paint variation here. A little bit more of a gunmetal on him. The cool thing that he comes with is his binoculars here. I'll just call them that. But there's a nice little sculpt right there. There are some different paint apps on here. He's got a little bit of almost an olive drab, greenish hue going throughout the binoculars. This is painted black. But that's pretty cool. So nice sculpting going on there with the binoculars. The figure itself has a really nice wash going throughout. Some paint splatter right here to give off the effect that he's been in battle before. So that's pretty cool. Nice scuffing going throughout both shoulder pads right there, as you can see. That's nice. So nice scuffing there. Also continuing on through the bicep pads onto the forearms and the hands, the leg or the thighs, the crotch piece, all has that fatigue mixed with kind of like a battle-worn look. We've got some really nice looking battle-worn paint applications going throughout, kind of like a dry brushing going throughout the knee pads here, which looks good. The legs, as far as the knee, from the knee down, has a little bit of paint applications going throughout. Not anything too crazy though. The back portion even has some paint apps on his, I guess, I don't know if you want to call this a communicator right here. Looks good though. The helmet looks crisp and clean. Nicely done there. Really like the green that they decided to go with. It's like almost like a metallic green for the head. Reflects light nicely. So good job on that. He can hold everything. He does tend to hold his binoculars a little bit loose in this hand. You kind of have to find that sweet spot with him. But he does hold them, so that's not an issue. And let's see if he can get these all the way up. So you can kind of look through them. I don't know. It's not really wanting to get... He can't really, due to these elbow pads right here, he can't get the full range of motion of the double jointed elbow. So it's almost like a single joint, to be honest with you, with a little bit extra room right there, as you can see. But it doesn't get all the way up, like he needs to be right there. So, just to point that out. Also to point out, I would highly suggest that you super glue this bad boy into his back, because this is going to come flying out. It's not a deep peg on this antenna on his back. I super glued mine in, so I don't have an issue with that ever falling out. But I would highly recommend that you glue that in if you're going to take this guy out of package. So that's Commander Gree in a nutshell. Moving on to Kylo Ren. Kylo, I had to get rid of that cape. I could not stand his cape that he came with. I'm sorry. I'm just not a fan of plastic capes at all. When I get a plastic cape, I throw it right in the trash where it belongs because I don't like them. I think at this point, at this stage of the game, I understand that people like the sculpt of a cape, but for me, at least for me, personal preference, I don't like plastic capes. I think they're just pointless. If you're going to give us a character, especially even the fact that they gave Luke a cloth cape, and they decided to give us this junk with him. I understand it's supposed to lie a certain way, but you can't really do anything with him with this. And now that the lightsaber is touching this, I mean, you kind of have to have his arm out like this the whole time. It just doesn't, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the way this looks. So, I say goodbye to you. I mean, I get you want, if you want the sculpt. Oh, the sculpt is there, you're missing out, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, he's got the nice leather feel to it. I get it's like textured, and it's a pliable plastic. It's not as heavy as what Krennic's cape was, as condom-ish. But at the same token, it still does limit him, you know, posing with this cape on. So you can't really get the full feel of it with this. So I highly recommend just picking up a cheapo custom cape on eBay. You can pick one of these up for like what, $6 to $10. If you find a really good one, then you might charge a little bit more. But for now, this will do. I don't need it to be at 100% accurate right now at this phase to what this is. Maybe I'll cut this and glue it around here, but for now this will do. This is just fine for me. He also does come with an unbladed hilt and a bladed hilt, which I really like the way that this bladed hilt looks. It's nice to see that he actually kept this lightsaber for the continuation of this saga. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it is unique to his character, and I think it works. So that's nice to see. To note on the face sculpt, it's not as pale as it maybe is coming off on camera here. I do have my... I should probably back off my lighting a little bit. That gives a little bit more justice to the figure right there. The scar on his face, I feel like could be highlighted a little bit more as far as paint applications go for the face. But I think this is a really nice face sculpt, to be honest with you. Don't really have too much of an issue with it. Let me just get this arm out of the way. The face sculpt looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest with you. I think it's much, much better than the Force Awakens unmasked Kylo. It just is. The paint applications are better. The skin tone is better. The eyes look a lot more natural. I mean, it's still not quite there yet. I mean, if you look at some of the customizers that have done repaint of the Black Series head sculpts, that's probably the route to go if you're nitpicky about the heads. But this is a really good, I think this is a really good head sculpt, to be honest with you. Like I said, the only thing I really think lacking from this head sculpt is the scar needs to be highlighted a little bit more, so you can, a little bit more predominant for the scar. But that's a nitpick. To me, that's a nitpick. Yeah, the scar is still there. You can see it. You can see the line going through his head. And if you're wondering, long story short, if you're wondering why the scar is not placed right where The Force Awakens had it, it's due to director Rian Johnson changing it for his sake, which is up for debate whether that's okay or not, but I digress. There is his lightsaber. The sculpt looks really good, nice and clean with that. And as you can see, the hilt looks really good. Nice sculpted detail going throughout through that. And then we have the unbladed lightsaber. Nicely done there. And it does have a peg right here where you can peg onto his person if you want to. There are some paint applications on the hilt as well. As you can see right here, there's some red. And then there's a couple, like a red wire going up this way, where you can see right there. And you can pretty much just plug this right into his side. Very similar to the re-released Kylo, masked Kylo, and the unmasked Kylo. And the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Kylo all had that peg. Also nice to see that he does have a little bit of a variation here. A bit of a new look as far as the Force Awakens goes. It's not changed drastically, but it's nice improvements upon the character's look. So I'll just give you a quick turnabout look, 360 on that. And then here are the boots. They look a little bit different, but like I said, not too different. This figure also comes off a little bit more, I don't know, maybe a little bit more bulky than the Force Awakens one, which I think is nice for the character. Maybe he got a little bit larger, a little bit stronger as he is older in this movie. And obviously, if he's going to have the lightsaber in his hand, you got to take the hilt out of his holster. So, I think he looks great. I'm really digging this head sculpt on him. I think this is so much improved. And I know it does sit differently on him, but this will have to do for now, until I customize the cape a little bit more to my liking. And like I said, I could always cut the hood off and then detach this piece, this clasp that goes around his neck, and glue it to the sides here and over here and to the back and have this sit here. But I mean, you could just get so much better range of motion with this cape on. And just to prove my point, I'll just go through articulation with this cape on. The head can go back about that far, and it only goes back that far due to the sculpt of his hair. The head can look down like that. It can pivot side to side just a little bit, not too much there. It can also swivel. The arms go up about that far, down, full 360 rotation. He's got a single bend at the elbow. Really good range of motion there. Nicely done. Then he's got a swivel. Swivel at the wrist. He does have a hinge joint which goes up and down. And let's see if this one goes up and down as well. Swivel and hinge that goes up and down. Yeah. So no in and out or left or right. Pretty much just up and down. The diaphragm joint is a ball peg. And it does pivot side to side. It does swivel. Does crunch forward a bit. And more so back than forward. He's got his T-jointed hips, which aren't the best range of motion. I'd say it's probably due to the sculpt of the uniform here. But that's the splits for him. Legs go forward. And they don't really go back due to the sculpt of this. Upper thigh swivel. A double jointed knee. Ankle hinge forward, points the toe nice. And ankle pivot. So really good range of motion with him. I'm pretty happy with it. The one thing he's lacking is the splits, but that's due to the sculpt of his uniform, so I can't take away too much for that. That's pretty much the design of the character. Maybe they could have done some slits here, like they did with Thrawn, but there is still a slit in the front. Maybe a slit in the back, since you don't really see the back too much. That would have helped. Maybe even just a little bit of a slit right here, but it's okay. It's a nitpick gripe that I have, but man, he looks so much better with this cape. I really do like it. Even though this is supposed to be, I think, more of a leather look, I still prefer the cloth. I don't care. But that's pretty much Kylo Ren in a nutshell. Moving on to this lady right here. Let me just say right off the bat that this is a far, far better look for Rey than her. There's aspects of her Episode 7 look that I can appreciate, I like, but this overall, I'd say, is the superior look for her. So I'm thoroughly happy with it. I like this, the way she's got her hair. It looks so much better than The Force Awakens, to be honest with you. I don't know, the three buns was, I don't know, a little annoying. How the bun stayed in the entire movie. How convenient for you, Rey, that your hair stays perfect the entire movie. The staff is pretty much the same as the first one. The lightsaber is the same. It's Luke and Vader's, Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. The blaster pistol that was given from Han Solo to Rey is here finally, so we got that, thank God. I actually thought that we were going to get that with the re-release of Rey, but it only included the lightsaber, so I'm actually really happy that we got this. And we got a nice holster for it, too. So there's no issues with this staying in. As you can see, it's nice and snug. No problems there. It's not falling out. You don't have to worry about it. The face sculpt, I think, looks a lot better, to be honest with you. I think it's a huge improvement over the pale face that we got in for Episode 7. That a lot of people are complaining about. To compare, what I'm talking about here is, I mean, she's got a little bit of rouge on those cheeks from Episode 7. She's a little bit more pale-faced, I'd say. But yeah, I definitely like this look for Rey over this look for Rey. I don't know, I wasn't a big fan of this plastic stuff. I feel like she really could have benefited from some kind of cloth here. I'm actually surprised that they didn't give a mixture like they did with Anakin and Obi-Wan, the mixture of cloth with the plastics kind of draping. That's a little bit of surprising on their part, but not the worst thing in the world. So there is the comparison. That I don't know what it is. I really like the way this looks. Let me get this out of her hand here so we can not do that, and we'll go through articulation in a second. I also do want to compare the staffs. These staffs are different colors. They're a different mold entirely. As you can see, the connection points right here are different. The strap is not as silly looking as the episode 7 one is. She can actually put this around her or across her body in a more natural look, as opposed to this heavy, hard look where she's pretty much going to have to hold her staff. But the staff looks a lot better for episode 8. Her lightsaber is her lightsaber. We're pretty much used to this at this point. Here's the hilt. Nice sculpt, nice detail. We've seen it numerous times. The blade can be removed if you want to have it non-bladed. She doesn't really have a connection point, which is kind of surprising, to be honest with you. So no connection point for her to hold it on her waist. That's a little bit of a letdown. I'm going to say that. I'm just going to be honest with you. But, like I said, nitpick. So, there she is holding her blaster pistol. Looks good. And here she is holding it. Looks good. She looks good pointing it. I like it. Let's see if she can get it. She's looking right down the sights. It's almost like the sculpt here gets in the way a little bit of her arm looking, but I think it's okay. So that's solid as far as her holding the pistol. And let's see if she can hold it in this hand too. This hand does not have a trigger finger on the left hand side, so if you want to have her maybe holding it neutral, although it does look a little, it looks not a little, but a little, not a little, but it does look strange for her to hold it like this. It looks like she's pointing it up in the air like that, so that's a little strange. So I would definitely recommend you have it in this hand instead. As far as her articulation does go, though, her head can swivel. The hair does get in the way of the sculpt of the range of motion there. Does tend to want to get underneath this part of her attire, but not a big deal there. Her head can look up about that far. That's pretty much it. And then her head can look down. She does not pivot side to side. She can swivel her head, full 360 if you need her to. Arms go up about that far, down, full 360 rotation, and her arm does want to do that. So just to note that this piece does get in the way quite a bit. Nice bend in the elbow, swivel at the elbow, a hinge joint at the wrist, swivel at the wrist. Another thing to note is that this does still feel a little bit brittle right here. Not, I shouldn't say brittle like it's going to snap, but just frail. That's the term I'll use. Swivel at the waist. She does have a crunch. Doesn't really go back that much at all. That's pretty much maxed out. It does crunch forward a little bit. No pivot side to side. She pretty much just wants to swivel here with a little bit of a crunch forward. Then that's about it. Fixing her damn hair because it keeps getting caught. There we go. The legs go forward nicely. Really good range of motion. Look at the extension there in the leg, especially for having a holster here and this piece in the way. Good extension there. I really like that. And that's with the leg fully forward, straight. And she can do the splits nicely. So that's some good Jedi training right there. She has a little bit more of an extension on this side due to the slit right here, where this kind of gets in the way. But just comparing it with Episode 7, that's pretty much it with Episode 7, where Episode 8 you get this So, big difference there. Look at the difference there. That's nice. So, legs go forward like I showed, and they go back a little bit. More so on this side. Upper thigh swivel. Double jointed knees. Just got an ankle hinge forward. Points the toe nice. And ankle pivot. So, there you go with the articulation, range of motion, all that fun stuff. I like the sculpt on her a lot better in this. This is really nice. I'm actually surprised that we did not get the end scene Rey yet. Maybe we'll get that down the line. I'm not sure, but I'm surprised we didn't get that at least in this wave or the next one. It's very strange. But Wave 2 is out there floating around. You can also pre-order it on various websites. I'm sure Big Boy Collectibles will have it up for pre-order sometime soon. That's pretty much it for these. I know I spent some quality time here talking about Star Wars, which I have not talked about in quite a while, but there hasn't really been much out for Star Wars besides what was released on Force Friday. I passed on most of the exclusives this year. So that was a thing. Okay, so my final thoughts on these. I think they're solid figures, especially for the $18 to $20 price point. I don't have any major quality control issues. I don't have any major quality control issues here with any of these. I would say the only quality control issues that I really have are he's got a little bit of the loose. He's got a little bit of the loose hip joint right there, or loose leg syndrome right there. Still not feeling they need to retool his elbow joints, and they need to resculpt their feet because their feet kind of do this thing where they don't lay flat like this. They kind of want to do a little bit of an arc in their foot. Which tends them to, I don't know, not stand the way I'd prefer. But, like I said, these are nitpicks. These are things that I would improve on. I really like this Kylo Ren figure. I think it's one of the good ones in the wave. The Darth Vader is pretty much a re-release from the 40th anniversary figure that was released. So that's why I passed on him. There's no need for me to get that. I already have it. But that's pretty much, that Vader is solid. You could definitely go pick him up if you wanted to. It also released in this wave the re-released Stormtrooper. Thrawn is solid. I really like this Rey. Hera's really good looking, and it's a much needed character to finish off our Rebels team. I would like them to continue giving us Rebels characters as well. I'd like to see some Inquisitors. I'd like to see all of the Inquisitors that were featured on there. Keep giving us clones, please, because I love them. I'm a big fan of the Clone Wars. I liked that whole series, and I actually liked that whole era of the Clone Wars. It was fantastic. But can't wait for Captain Rex to come out. I think for the most part I'm pretty happy with what I got. I also picked up Luke and his land speeder, so I'll probably do that review down the road. But for now, I just pretty much wanted to do an overview of what I got. And yeah, I'm actually really happy that I passed on the majority of the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives. I'm actually happy that this guy only cost me $20 instead of almost $100. So there's that aspect on the aftermarket. Like I said, I'm going to do Luke, a separate review of Luke, because he is one of my favorite characters, and I would like to spotlight him separately. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with all these pickups. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.